Good morning and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about a devil fruit that does not have a name, and that is Kinnamon's devil fruit, which I'm going to call from now on the clove fruit. So that being the case, let's start the video. Right, so Kinnamon's devil fruit is really unusual because it is a paramecia type devil fruit, which unusual does go hand in hand with paramecia. Kinnamon is able to create clothing or disguises for himself or anyone using this devil fruit. Now, unfortunately, this is a really weird one because it actually needs to have something tangible to go along with it. You need to have like a leaf or a stone and then put it in your hand, and then once you're holding it, then he can create that stone, like a transmutation from like Full Metal Alchemist, into an actual garb. So theoretically, he could probably make clothing for pretty much anyone, but the only issue with his devil fruit is, as long as he is visualizing it, the clothes will stay there. So, that being the case, this is a really weird devil fruit, and I can imagine some actual weird ways in which he could actually use this devil fruit. Kind of like Doflamingo's one, where he can use his strings to create a person of himself. He could theoretically use loads of clothing, like loads of rocks or something, use his devil fruit to actually create multiples of himself, and using clothing, but making the clothing the same shade and colour as his skin, to make the illusion that they're actually fighting Kinnamon. And I find this really interesting while thinking about it in this light, because that being the case, obviously he wouldn't be able to move it, but he could do something along the lines of like Mr. 3 when he made loads of wax statues of himself. But this time, Kinnamon could actually not rely on like Miss Golden Week and pretty much just make the colours himself. Because at the end of the day, it would be an amazing technique to actually fight people with, because they would literally just be fighting clothing, so they'd just be cutting cloth, basically. So, thinking about it this way, it's kind of weird. And that being the case, he could also make fake weapons as well, using clothing. Because different types of clothing can have different types of, like, tensile strengths and everything. So he can make the and he determines what type of clothing or cloth it is used. And he could use some with tensile strengths really strong. So pretty much he could probably do this, and if he can still visualize it, he could grab a load of rocks, throw those rocks and turn them into daggers, and then they could hit people. Like, think about it this way, you could actually do quite a lot with this devil fruit if you really thought about it. I really don't think it's that much of a useless devil fruit. It seems useless, but I reckon if Kinnamon actually probably thought about it and actually used it a lot more than he does, then I reckon that this devil fruit could actually be a very powerful devil fruit for extra attacks or anything along those lines. Like, he can disguise anyone. Like when he dressed up as Doflamingo. That was pretty good, to be fair, considering what that he looks nowhere like Doflamingo. So, that being the case, I find this devil fruit absolutely fascinating. And with that being said, he could also make katanas out of cloth. So then again, he could just, like, he could have weapons, and he wouldn't have to worry about losing his swords or anything, because they would literally just be stones and leaves that he picks up off the ground. So anywhere he goes, he would always have a weapon. If you think about it this way, if he could actually just make a piece of clothing that creates a knife, like that is in the shape of a knife. But all in all, I find that this devil fruit is actually the best used for if Kinnamon actually loses his clothes. He is never going to lose his clothes, because he can just create new clothes. The only issue with this devil fruit is, as soon as he stops visualizing the actual clothing, so to speak, then it disappears, like poof, gone. So that is a funny thing, because if you think about it, he could probably create like a load of scarves, and oh man, I'm thinking of so many techniques today. He could make a load of scarves and use those to tie people up and chain them up, yeah, and that'd be easier, and he'd literally be just throwing leaves at people. This devil fruit is getting better and better the more I'm talking about it. Like, think about it this way. You could think of how awesome you could actually... You could even make armour, theoretically speaking. If he can create clothes, like any form of clothing, he could make like some form of Kevlar, but obviously Kevlar isn't in the One Piece universe, but something in the One Piece universe that resembles Kevlar he could create. So, that being the case, it's kind of like really, really powerful at that point before creating armour, because he's got armour. He could protect himself from any types of cuts and hits and anything. So really thinking about it, his devil fruit isn't actually that weak. But along with that, I'm going to call it the cloves fruit for the time being, just for simplicity for us. And that's why I put a question mark on the thumbnail. So that being the case, guys, that was Kinemon's devil fruit of the cloves fruit. Now, I hope you guys have a lovely rest of the day, and I shall see you in the next video tomorrow. Bye-bye.
No, I can't be responsible. It ain't my